10. Most of the documentary is staged because most of it is recreated, so the viewer is able to feel like they are actually there in the moment and like living what's happened. And also one of the reasons why most of it is recreated is because they don't have footage or anything like it that shows what really happened between the family and Robert and how it all went down. So they have recreated it, or you could say they have staged most of the video that you are seeing in this documentary.
13. During the interviews, the camera is positioned very close to the face of the interviewed person. This is presumably to make it seem more serious and important. And also during the dramatization / stage scenes, the filmmaker uses like a grainy and fuzzy filter to make the footage seem old and like it happened back when this happened, which was in 1974. And during those stage scenes, the camera was also a little sharp compared to the interviews.
The documentary was very effective in the way that you were given a very good outlook on what happened in the total, like overall what happened to everybody. You were told how Jane was manipulated, how she was told that she had to have a sexual relationship with Robert because she thought that was the only way to save her parents and her siblings and save an entire alien species on another planet. And you were just able to see how he manipulated her, how he drugged her, how he kidnapped her, and then how she protected him from being put in jail for kidnapping her because she believed that that was the only way for her to save her family. So that was very good of the documentary in a way that you were able to really be able to live yourself into the story to actually see what actually happened in the way that they made it up. We were also able to see how the parents went through all of it, how they were manipulated by Robert and how he pointed the parents against each other and made them go through things they shouldn't have gone through in a time of need that they were in, where their child was kidnapped twice by the same man, and how he used his sexuality to try and affect them both. And yeah, the documentary just gives you a very good overall look over the whole situation and how everything happened, and example how the FBI also looked into it and how the neighbors had a feeling that there was something wrong while the entire thing was happening and so on. It is a very good documentary, and it's very effective in the way that you get a very good understanding of what happened.
1. What is the principal subject of this documentary? What is its principal purpose? Does it argue for a position? Does it critique a position? What kind of impact does it seek to achieve with and upon its intended audience? So the documentary is about the kidnapping and brainwashing of Jan Broberg in her early teens, from like 12 to like 16. The documentary's purpose is to tell the story of abduction of Jan Broberg, and it critiques the point of view critiques Robert Berchtold, also known as B in the documentary, whom is the kidnapper and brainwasher of Jan Broberg. And also the documentary falls under genre true crime.
The documentary uses many different things like interviews. There's an interview with Jan, there's an interview with the entirety of her family, and there is even an interview with the brother of Robert, and there is also an interview with a former FBI agent who was the one who worked the case back in the 70s. And yeah, there was also a lot of recreational scenes where they recreate the scenes, not the scenes, but they recreate what happened during the case between the family and Robert and Jane and Robert and so on. There is also very few live action scenes, if you can call it that, where they use some surveillance film from a surveillance camera from a courtroom that shows some interaction between Jane and Robert when they were in court together 30 years later after all of this had happened.
4. Does this documentary film combine recorded material with voiceover commentary in which the material directly illustrates what the commentary indicates? If so, how so, and to what effect does the film make use of this kind of combination? The documentary combines recorded material with voiceover from the Broberg family, Jan Broberg, her father Bob, her mother Marianne, her younger sister Susan, and younger sister Karen. Then there's Robert Berchtold's brother, Joe Berchtold, and there's Pete Walsh, that is the FBI special agent who was on the case. They do it this way to make you like feel more involved in this in the case in some ways.
The documentary also uses experts. For example, they use an expert in form of the FBI agent who worked on the case. He comes with some details and some information that probably the family members can't come up with. He's also very objective, since his only reason to be on the case is to find the guilty person. So he has no hatred against anybody in this case. We would also call the family members experts, solely because it's their story, they experienced it, so they can come up with some details and interesting facts that the FBI agent probably couldn't come up with. The only problem with this family, of course, is that they have a very subjective view on this matter, because they have a very hateful bond with this B person who kidnapped their daughter twice. So music is also used a lot in this documentary, especially when these text boxes comes up throughout the story. This is probably to showcase that something very important is about to happen for this timeline. So it makes us, the viewer, more aware of what is going on. There's also one part of the movie or documentary where there's no sound at all. This is when B commits suicide. This is probably to, again, make the viewer aware of what just happened, and probably just to make them understand how important this actually is for the story.